I worked in an emergency room, for 6 years, so I am full of stories, but when it comes to petty revenge, this one sticks out in my memory. Patient equals patient. Patient D equals patient's daughter. Critical patient equals critical patient. Me equals me. Every person who has worked in the emergency room knows that Mondays are the busiest days of the week and also when all the crazies come out. This day was no different. I worked as a nurse in triage, where you initially get assessed in the front before going to the back. Here we determine who needs to go back first and who can wait. It's not a first-come, first-serve as most people think. We had a few stretchers in the front for people who needed to be monitored a little closer or needed IVs, blood draws, labs. There were 6 stretchers, but this day was so busy all 6 stretchers were filled plus 5 more in the hallway. This lady comes in on an ambulance, but because her symptoms did not indicate an emergency, she was put in stretcher triage to wait her turn. She was in a lot of pain. After assessment, I recognized her symptoms as being caused from gallstones. Painful but not life-threatening. We put her on a stretcher, started in 4, drew labs, and hooked her up to the monitor just in case. A few minutes later, patient D comes in the front door. One look at her and we knew she would cause problems. She had everything from the shoes to the haircut. A classic rich Karen. When she saw that her mom was still in the front and hadn't seen a doctor yet, she started screaming that she knew the chief executive officer of the hospital and that we would all be fired if we didn't get her mom back to see a doctor right now. We explained that her mom has a history or gallstones, and even patient was saying that she has had this pain many times because of the gallstones. We explained about being really busy and that there were no rooms available in the back and we'll get her back as soon as we could. She eventually calmed down but was still antsy. About an hour later, another patient, critical patient, comes in and was put in the stretcher beside patient and patient D. This patient had worrying complaints, but on initial assessment we could not find anything wrong. Now, as a nurse, you learn to always trust your gut. When your gut sounds an alarm, you listen. Something about this patient was setting my alarm bells off, but all his vitals were normal, and I had no solid evidence to declare him an emergency. I hooked him up to the monitor and kept a very close eye on him. I let the charge nurse know of my concerns, and she said to let her know as soon as something changes. Not 5 minutes later, something changed. Now, at this time I should explain that this hospital was a level 1 trauma center, meaning we get all the bad cases from car crashes to gunshot victims. We were in the middle of gang territory. Since we had to be ready for any traumas, life-threatening injuries, we had a room with 3 beds that was closed off from the rest of the beds because traumas usually involved a lot of people and a lot of blood. Even on busy days like this one, Thuff's rooms were empty unless there was a trauma patient. Now, back to critical patient. I was taking vital signs of patient when I looked over to critical patient. I noticed a worrying change in his rhythm and stopped with patient to start assessing critical patient to see what was going on. That did not sit well with patient D. She actually grabbed my arm and told me to finish with her mom. I jerked my arm free and said I had to make sure critical patient was okay. As I turned around to critical patient, his rhythm went into VFib, life-threatening rhythm. I called the charge nurse to inform her of critical patient condition, all the while unhooking critical patient from the monitor and throwing his bed into drive. As I started pushing him back, patient D actually jumps in front of the stretcher and stops it. She's screaming that her mom was here first and needed to be seen before critical patient and screaming that I was a liar and that she was going to get me fired. I'm usually a mild-tempered person, but knowing critical patient was literally minutes from dying, and I said to patient D, "You have a choice. Get out of my way or get run over," as I started pushing the stretcher forward. Now, I'm really good at pushing stretchers fast and getting the patients where they needed to go in a hurry. One of the reasons I was part of the trauma team. Patient D tried to stand firm, but she saw I wasn't going to stop and jumped out of the way just as I was an inch from hitting her. Unfortunately, she did not move fast enough and I ended up running over her foot. At this point, I didn't care and got the patient back to the trauma room, leaving patient D screaming, lying on the floor. We spent about 30 minutes on critical patient, but he ended up dying. By the time I got back up front, patient and patient D had been taken to the back to see a doctor, but my charge nurse warned me that they were filing a complaint against me. A few days later, the actual chief executive officer of the hospital came to visit me on my next shift. He was known to be a kind and fair man. Since this happened during a time before cameras were put in the emergency rooms, he had to take what happened from word of mouth. Apparently, Patient D said I assaulted her several times and put her mom's life in danger by not assessing her properly, and that I should be fired. Turned out that patient did actually have gallstones and nothing else. Also, Patient D's foot was broken due to me running over it. I calmly explained exactly what happened and that Patient D's actions might have ended up in critical patient dying because of the delay she caused by her actions. When I got to the part of what I said to Patient D and running over her foot, the chief executive officer actually started laughing and then tried to cover his mouth to hide his laughter. He explained that Patient D was a friend of his sister and he knows what kind of person she is. Not only did I not get fired, he put a personal note in my file praising my actions. On my next review, I got a large raise plus a bonus thanks to the chief executive officer's note. And hashtag X200B. Thank you the silver, gold, and platinum. Wow. Thank you. Comment by user. Where the hell was hospital security? That woman should have been handcuffed to a goddamn chair. Also, you're awesome, I just hate hearing that woman could have caused that. Reply by original poster. Thanks. As for the security, they were called to the back to restrain another patient. The other triage nurse called the backup security, but it happened so fast they couldn't get there in time. Because the Patient D became a patient, they couldn't escort her out of the hospital. Comment by user. Ha! If only someone told her to move. I'm sorry critical patient died, but I'm sure you and your team did everything they could. Ugh, the entitlement of people amazes me sometimes. I know any time I'm forced to go to the emergency room, I will gladly wait to be seen. I know the faster you see someone, the worse off they are. Once I went, and I was assessed and given a room within 30 to 45 minutes. I didn't realize how bad I was. Internal bleeding from a softball-sized hemorrhagic cyst is a bitch. Until I noticed all the people I bypassed in the emergency room. Sorry, don't mean to tell my own stories all the time. What I do want to say is thank you for all you've done, do, and continue to do. Thank you to you and your colleagues, you're good people. Reply by original poster. I love to hear other people's experience in the emergency room. I often wonder if other emergency rooms have the same problems/patients. Comment by user. So what was wrong with the patient who died? Reply by original poster. If I remember correctly, it was an abdominal aortic aneurysm. The problem was he had no other signs other than an upset stomach. His color was what sent my senses into alarms. I tried to get him back sooner, but with no other symptoms they couldn't justify it. I regret not pushing harder since he might be alive if we caught it earlier. Comment by user. This just boils my blood. There should be a heavy fine for pulling that sort of crap. As someone who regularly has to go to the hospital, thanks for all your work. I knew medical staff had hard jobs, but after having to see it all the time really makes me respect nurses and doctors on a level I never thought possible. Thanks again for all your hard work. Reply by original poster. Thank you so much for that. Comment by user. In my emergency room we had 2 trauma rooms. Trauma 1 and Trauma 2. When people would call an ambulance to skip the wait, sometimes after already coming and seeing the full waiting room. When EMS would stop at the charge desk for a room assignment, we'd always tell them Trauma 3, which was the waiting room. Reply by original poster. We had patients do the same thing and we always said Bay 5, which is what our waiting room was called. Comment by user. What was it in your gut that made you wary? Are you able to recall, or is it too instinctual to explain? Reply by original poster. It's hard to explain. It's like what happens when you sense danger is near. All your senses become heightened and you can't shake the feeling something is wrong. Most nurses I know that have worked for many years usually have this sense. It only happened 4 times in 6 years, and I can tell you each time something major ended up being wrong with the person that no one caught. Comment by user. As someone with AFib/flutter with a tachycardia kicker, thank you. You freaking rock. More hospitals need kick-ass nurses like you. Keep up the amazing job. Patience here is a silver from me. Reply by original poster. Thank you. It's always uplifting when people appreciate your work. Thank you for the silver. Comment by user. I am by no means supporting patient D's actions, but I almost died from gallstones. My doctor tried to dissuade me from going to the emergency room, saying I was being a baby. I had stones lodged in the duct and came very close to dying. If I would have listened to my doctor, my husband would have had to raise our 3-month-old daughter himself. The surgeon actually started to tell him that I might not make it. Of course, hubby didn't tell me any of this until many years later. Reply by original poster. I'm so sorry to hear that. I know that it does happen. I'm glad you're okay and didn't listen to the doctor. Comment by user. Patient lease makes some paragraphs. Reply by original poster. Sorry about that. I've never been really good at writing. I didn't know I could change it, but someone told me and now it has paragraphs. Not sure if they are proper paragraphs though, smiley face. Comment by user. I don't have any points, so here's a gold for you. Reply by original poster. Smiley face. Thanks. Comment by user. We spent about 30 minutes on critical patient, but he ended up dying. And hashtag X200B. This hit me in the feels. Reply by original poster. Sorry about that. We get kind of nonchalant about death since we deal with it every day. Comment by user. Just one question. Did you give the gallstone patient painkillers, or did you leave her in pain? Since most women suffering from gallstone are fat, fertile and 40, they tend to get punished for being so, and that punishment is usually in the form of withholding painkillers. Reply by original poster. We never withhold pain medicine from any patient no matter how awful of a person they were, but we need a doctor's order in order to give any. We could not give pain medicine in triage since we need a doctor's order. She unfortunately had to wait without medicine until she went to the back. Comment by user. As an employee provider in healthcare, I believed all of this until you got to the part about large raise and bonus thanks to the chief executive officer. Reply by original poster. I got the bonus because I was nominated for a top employee award and I won because of the chief executive officer notes on me. They informed me at my review when they also informed me of my raise. The raise was probably because I was due for one, but I didn't want to explain all of that because the story was already too long. Sorry if it was misleading. Comment by user. Fridays were always busy. That's when the working girls would come in to get cleaned up for the weekend. Even busier when there's a full moon or when someone says, "It sure is slow/quiet tonight." Reply by original poster. You definitely know how the emergency room works. I was never a superstitious person, so when I said my first, "It's slow," I laughed when the nurses fussed me out. Let's just say I learned my lesson the hard way, never to say that again. Comment by user. I'm curious, what was the cause of death? Reply by original poster. Abdominal aortic aneurysm. Comment by user. What is a rich Karen? Reply by original poster. A lady who thinks they are the most important person in the world because of who they know and how much money they have. Basically, rich, spoiled adults. Comment by user. The raise and bonus are screaming that this story is fake. Edit with the reply, maybe I'm wrong. Reply by original poster. I didn't go into detail about the bonus and raise because the story was already too long. What happened was that our hospital twice a year gives bonuses/award for outstanding work. Patient people send in nominations for the award. The chief executive officer sent in my name, which he has done before when he sees extra acts of kindness or an employee going above and beyond. He was that kind of guy that was involved with the employees. In my review is when they informed me that I received the award that had a $500 bonus to it. In the same review, I got a raise, which I was already due, so it probably wasn't related to what happened. I know it's hard to believe stories on here, but this one is actually true. Comment by user. How is it possible to assess patients in front of others without violating HI patient A? Or are you not in the IS? My apologies, these things just interest me. Reply by original poster. There were curtains separating each room, but even then we couldn't keep all patient information confidential. Patients usually know they lose some privacy in the emergency room. Comment by user. Wanted to read this, but literally couldn't due to there being no paragraphs. Kept losing my place. Sad face. Reply by original poster. Sorry about that. I'm actually really bad at writing things out. Not sure how to change it. Comment by user. 1. Who in this day and age doesn't know how emergency rooms work? And 2. Where's the revenge? Reply by original poster. It was petty revenge. My petty revenge was that her foot got broken and I got a raise instead of being fired like she wanted. Comment by user. 1. Who in this day and age doesn't know how emergency rooms work? And 2. Where's the revenge? Reply by original poster. You would be surprised how many people think of the emergency room like their personal doctor's office. They think it's first come, first served. Please leave your story in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to get new update. Thank you.